We want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. I'm excited that today we kind of have a 2-for-1 episode. It is the week of the Thanksgiving holiday, and so we're going to talk about Thanksgiving, what we're grateful for, and all of the fun that comes around the holidays. But we're also going to be wrapping up our sermon series on Philippians, and that is, if you know the book of Philippians or if you've been studying along with us, you know that Paul's charge at the end of the book is really to have godly contentment and to be happy and full of joy no matter the situation. So it goes along very well with Thanksgiving. There's some in this room that they have not chosen joy in their current situation in life.
Yes.
I was going to say,
Sorry.
I'm just waiting for your question about what we're thankful for. I'm thankful for coworkers. I'm thankful that,
I was thankful for my health.
I'm thankful for the coworkers that, use sick time and don't come in sick and sit next to other employees and get them sick. So,
Oh, man, Steve.
just saying, grateful.
There is a little bit of a cold that Steve contracted.
Yes.
It is
little bit of a cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Little bit.
No, like
A man cold.
a man cold.
Paula comes in Tuesday, staff meeting.
Lord.
Hi, everybody. It is I, Paula. I'm glad to be here. Not feeling
man.
well.
Sat right next to me. And then by Thursday, this was my voice.
Hi, everybody. It's a real mystery of how I got here today.
So she didn't give you a cold. She transposed her vocal cords.
I
to you.
guess.
Yeah,
I
like
guess.
that's- yeah.
You get to sound really cool for a couple of days, but after that, then your normal voice comes back and you still feel like, sick.
Yeah, like
So
not great.
What the heck?
So there is debate on how Steve got this
There
illness.
is no
but
debate
yeah.
now. There is no debate. The verdict is out. The guilty party has been convicted.
Yes. Oh, man. But we are going to be talking about trying to find contentment in all seasons.
For sure.
You're going to
Whether
have to
it
reel
is-
him in
yes,
for
yes.
this entire time. I guarantee
Whether it is a season of need or a season of plenty,
Yes.
which So we do have Thanksgiving. And I do want to talk about Thanksgiving. I love the Thanksgiving holiday. Once again, though, this will be year 4 that I will not be in the United States for Thanksgiving, but it'll be for good reason. It'll be for a mission trip, but it is something that every year I'm like, man, like I love Thanksgiving, and we're going again over this time period, but it works best for everyone else that is on the trip to do it at that point. So as we think about Thanksgiving week and what's to come, the family time, the great food, or dreading what's to come, the family time and the food, however you view it. I hope it's a very good thing with getting together with family. But what is one of your favorite things about the Thanksgiving holiday?
Pie.
Oh,
Come on now.
yes.
We take pie very seriously. Growing up, my dad had 9 siblings, so there was 10 of them.
Okay.
And they were not wealthy, but
Yeah.
it was the one holiday where my grandmother would ask each of them their favorite pie, and she would make them their own. And then they would make
Man.
extras.
Wow.
So she would
9
have like
pies.
14 to 16 pies
Oh my
at Thanksgiving. Everybody's favorites. So
Man.
that continued with my mom.
Okay.
And so my mom would ask all of our favorite pies.
Yeah.
Would make each of our favorites plus extras, pumpkin.
Yeah.
None of us would pick like pumpkin and apple because
Absolutely,
she was already going to make those.
she'll
so
make
we
those.
would
So
pick
like
all the
strategically
others.
go for
And
others.
it's all
Ah,
handmade.
yeah.
So what's your
Homemade
favorite pie?
crust.
What's your choice, Libby?
So mine is my mom's apple pie for sure.
Okay.
But normally as a kid I would pick chocolate because we never had chocolate pie.
Yeah.
But she has continued that, and so
Yeah.
passed on the pie
Nice.
tradition. Everything from scratch. We make all of our, crusts and
Yeah.
everything from scratch.
man.
And so the girls this year will go down and they have pie day with grandma. The day
Oh.
before Thanksgiving, Wednesday is pie day, and you make pies all day long.
Dang.
So it's and then you eat pie. The best
like a
day is
nightmare.
the day after Thanksgiving. It's pie for breakfast. For Friday, we
Yeah.
have pie for breakfast on Friday, the day after, and then throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
So,
Holy cow.
yeah, pie is we're very serious about our pie.
I guess so.
Yes.
Dang.
And I continue, and we do it at home as
So
well.
you guys do
So
that, yeah.
We make pies at home.
I would echo that with like my mom. Like that's she does not make 16 pies. Well, unless it's for the outdoor expo, and she makes them for everyone else but my dad. See, Dad, I'm helping you out here. And he makes a comment, but she'll make this blueberry pie that's amazing, and her apple pie is really good. Pumpkin pie is really good, but her pecan pie is our favorite. Like, and it's all homemade crust. It's all like, you know, and I still remember like as it transitioned, because as a kid, my dad like was the only one that liked the pecan pies. Like the rest of us liked the other pies, and we didn't like it. And then as we started liking it, he didn't like that as much. So now my mom during holidays makes multiple pecan pies so that he can still, you know. But oh, it's so good. I don't know if that's my favorite part, but yeah, I would very much echo. What about? And it doesn't have to be food. Because there is
obviously we're really focused.
I was gonna say we're talking. Yeah.
I am gonna ask. My next question is gonna be a follow up of what's your favorite, you know, dish at Thanksgiving dinner. So, what's your favorite part about the holidays, Paula?
Okay, I'm gonna give an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
And this is gonna make us sound terrible, but it's really not my fault. It's my parents' fault. But
Okay, so blaming yes.
yes. So we're particularly my dad. We're real Christmas fanatics in my family. So Thanksgiving has kind of been like a gateway holiday.
For shame.
I said it was unpopular, but it kind of is something we make through because it's after that it's
full go Christmas.
Yeah, it's full. I mean, it's full go Christmas a month prior to Thanksgiving.
Okay.
To be honest with you, but we kind of have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's always very nice, but it's normally just. We got to make it through that in order to really get to the Christmas holiday.
Okay.
That sounds terrible.
Isn't all your Christmas stuff up though wherever you meet?
Yeah, like my mom's house is fully decorated for Christmas.
Yeah, it makes Thanksgiving great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's already
added joy.
So Thanksgiving is just a little bit more special of a family gathering, really.
It's the gateway.
But not even.
It's kind of like the kickoff.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is the kickoff to
Thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter Christmas with prayer.
Exactly.
Nice. So what do you have a favorite thing about Thanksgiving?
My favorite thing about Thanksgiving is that Abraham Lincoln's the one who created Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Yeah, and I probably said that at the podcast last year and maybe every year that I've been on around Thanksgiving, but everybody needs to know that it wasn't started by the Pilgrims people. It was started by Abraham Lincoln, man. Come on.
Making it a national.
Yes, making it a national holiday. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like if you really want to know, and this is going to get us off on a side trail.
Yes, let's take it.
Christmas really did not matter in the world and in this country. It was not a very celebrated holiday until one thing happened. Coca-Cola put Santa Claus with a Coke bottle way back in the 20s, I think, or maybe the 30s, because they were plummeting so bad and losing out to Pepsi. And that was like a last-ditch effort, and that was what started the glorification of Christmas and the commercialization of it. Yeah, like it was I didn't realize this until maybe even this year, but like watching this basically this presentation on it and how it went through. But I mean, Christmas obviously was still somewhat celebrated, but the commercialization of it wasn't that big of a deal until they made their last-ditch effort, and now.
Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
No, it's not a great thing. The commercialization, that's not good. But I think for me it was always like my favorite thing about Thanksgiving was the family gathering. Thanksgiving was more like sometimes we'd go down to Maryland and have family, but a lot of times it was just us and then all the other kids from the ranch that really didn't have families, so like we would always have people over and we would always have a lot of people there, and it was just a lot of food, a lot of fun, and then football, and so like, I don't know, there was just something about that it was a neat thing because it was with our family. It just wasn't with our blood family, And so we always, and I do always remember there was a lot of times where like so-and-so from the church or so-and-so from our lives that was an adult and just had fallen on some really hard times. And they like reached out to my parents, like they would come over for Thanksgiving, and spend time with us. So I always loved that, and having the open, the open table type thing. And just having all of that. Probably the pecan pie, I already said, is my favorite part of, or I would say my mom's homemade gravy, because there's something just a little bit different about my mom's homemade gravy, and I don't know what it is, of why I like that best. Or like my mom's pecan pie, like you can have that other places, but sometimes like your mom makes something, it's just like, like it's just different. But I think those are probably my two favorite foods. Pie, you already said, forget their favorite food.
Pie,
that's
like food is sweet potato and apple bake.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
just sweet potatoes and apples, but you put a little bit of brown sugar and cinnamon and butter, and it tastes like an apple pie, but with the sweet potatoes.
With sweet potatoes, yeah.
So good.
I'm not a huge sweet potato man.
Oh, really?
Live on sweet potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
I like sweet potatoes.
I like the regular potatoes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's my
mashed potatoes. Your favorite, probably.
No.
What's your favorite dish from Thanksgiving?
Stuffing balls.
Here we go.
I'm serious. I went over to Heather's family's for the first time when we were dating, and they had these stuffing balls. There's a stuffing just made in balls and then gravy on top. Like this. Oh, it was awesome. And I was a stovetop man. My mom still brings stovetop, because all that. But
so
now,
was it homemade?
Yeah,
stuffing?
it's like a homemade. Yeah, you get all the bread and stuff.
So does it stay formed because it like crisps up on the outside, or
it does
it's just
crisp
sticky
a
enough?
little, but
It's
yeah,
sticky
it
enough
has
that
some
it just
sort of
stays-
form. Yeah, they're awesome. I think it was, the story goes, Heather made it in home ec class, and then that's when it just became
and that was
Kenyan family tradition. That and homemade noodles. Like Heather and I would make the homemade noodles.
Your wife and her noodles.
Yeah, so I don't know where. I think that came from home ec class too, because we never had homemade noodles or anything like that at home. But yeah, we make these flat noodles. Yeah, so stuffing balls. I was. And the funny thing is we brought the stuffing balls once to the Pedicide, and they're like, "Nah, these aren't great." I'm like, dude, I was like this to all my family. I don't even know you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are lame.
I'm not gonna waste my time
I was
on
like,
you
I
anymore.
got the stovetop, Steven. Get away from those.
Yeah.
But I don't like stovetop as much anymore, but growing up, stovetop felt
absolutely.
like Thanksgiving
That
to
was
me.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
I think people were posting about the canned cranberry
Yes,
sauce.
cranberry sauce.
I didn't even know people like made
I
it
didn't
for
either.
real. Like if it's not in the can, I'm not
the can
interested.
And just slice it.
Yeah, like
And then you
why?
put it right on a
Why do it any
sandwich.
other way? What are you, a savage?
Right.
Like brewing it over some sort of stove?
I feel that-
It comes in a can. You open it, dump it
I
out.
feel the can is easier to just throw straight in the garbage because that's where all cranberry sauce
my
belongs.
Gosh.
You
How
just
can you eat
open the
turkey
can.
without it?
No. We'll go on
He's like,
before I
"Oh my
get
gosh,
nauseous.
cranberry."
I
Yeah.
can't
Hey,
stand
for kids, though,
cranberry
Thanksgiving
sauce.
is where you can get away with not trying the weird stuff. Like there's so much
Absolutely,
food
yeah.
there. Like
Nobody
your parents
notices.
like really never made you try like all the weird things
Yep.
your aunts would bring. You're
Because
like, oh my gosh, what is that?
your
Like,
plate would
just
be
ignore that.
full and you'd
yeah,
have
they
something.
didn't care as long as
Yeah.
you had something. So
Yeah.
that's why Thanksgiving I think for kids is the bomb. You know?
Yes,
in
that
my
is
opinion.
true.
Well, because you eat like a roll. Like that's my son's plate: turkey and a roll. It's the whitest,
Nice.
most
The
boring.
whitest, like
the
no
whitest.
gravy.
Which one?
Nothing.
Which one?
Andrew,
Oh, man.
he's so
Andrew,
picky.
come on.
Yeah.
Ian will eat anything.
Yeah,
but like
Ian.
Andrew's like roll,
Andrew, you're
3
missing
rolls
out.
and
Yeah, Everett's the
3
same
rolls.
way.
piece of turkey.
Yeah.
Everett's the
But my
same
mom
way.
does stuffing, like homemade stuffing, but then she does
Yeah.
a separate small one with all the gizzards in it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was cooked in the bird?
Gross.
Your dad
Yeah.
likes that?
Yes, he's the only one that will touch it.
Okay.
Really?
But she'll make him a separate little pot of chicken parts.
My dad was the
Have at
same
it,
way.
man. Turkey.
Gizzards.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah,
He's like,
turkey.
that precious
parts.
art.
Not chicken parts. That'd be weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
In preschool, I was explaining to the kids, we're trying to talk to them about trying the turkey. I said, it's just
Yeah.
a big chicken.
Yeah.
So I had a mom call me and ask, why do they keep asking for chicken for Thanksgiving? And I said, oh.
Yeah,
no.
that
I
was-
tell
that
them
was
it's
the
like a big
opposite.
chicken.
It's
like a big
Yeah.
chicken, yeah.
You
Yeah.
can eat it. It's okay.
Yes.
It's chicken.
Yes.
Just
They're
eat
afraid
it.
of the
Because
Oh,
if
man.
you called it, Maggie always did. If we called it turkey, she wouldn't eat it. If we told her she was eating chicken, she'd eat it.
She'd eat it.
So,
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Not really.
So
That's awesome.
so moral of the story, lie to your
Yeah.
kids.
Thanksgiving
Yes.
And then
lies.
yeah.
Tell them it's chicken.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
you. I didn't lie.
Yeah. Paula, we have done
works.
that. We have done that with so many foods. Yeah. We would tell Emery things were meatballs.
Oh, there you go.
Because meatballs are still like her favorite
Yeah.
like dinner meat. Like it's
What were you trying to serve her?
I think like meatloaf.
Oh, okay.
We would say like
Oh.
yeah, like these
just
yeah,
cut
we
up
didn't
meatball.
But it
we
looks
didn't
like
give
a
her
carrot,
yeah.
Dad.
Yeah.
No,
we
it's
didn't give her like
meatball.
fish and say it was a meatball. Yeah. she's a little smarter than that. Yeah. But do you have a favorite dish? Not your dad's stuffing, obviously.
No, Ellen makes like a broccoli cheddar casserole thing that's really good. And my mom does a Dutch apple pie that was Grandma Watson's.
Okay.
Nice. That is definitely, we only get it that one day a year.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, in all seriousness, one of the things that we do with Angie's family is we have thankful time. And we go around the circle this year because of time and everything and the craziness of the family in Baltimore that FaceTimed in. Her younger brother wasn't able to be there, but his wife and 3 kids were part of it. And we were all down in Grove City. And, we went around and said something we were thankful for. And I would love to hear something that in this season of life, you don't have to elaborate too much, but what's one thing that you're thankful for as you're approaching the holiday?
I'm already prepped because my dad does the same thing, and we've already talked to our kids. Be ready.
You need to have something
Papa
ready.
goes around one by one. You have before we eat. Everything's
Nobody
plated.
can eat until
Nobody
you do.
eats.
Spit it
so
out, kid. I'm starving.
Yeah, I know.
And it makes everybody's like really nauseous.
I know.
I have to talk and make sure
What
it's
are
really
you
good.
thankful for? I'm nothing. Just say something, kid.
Say something. Be prepped. Everybody has to say something. And you can't repeat what comes before you.
Yeah.
So
That's
a rule.
So Libby,
It's
what are
something
you
real,
what are you going to share when your dad asks?
I think I have, over the past year, been very acutely aware of God's grace on my life. Like, just mercy and grace where I see myself falling short. His grace always covers. And so it's been a year of, learning that and seeing it and being very thankful for it.
For sure.
That's very deep and spiritual.
Sorry. I'm prepped. I had some time to think about it.
Paula's
Mine
like,
was not.
mine is not spiritual. Someone's got to be the heathen. Go ahead, Paula.
I'm thankful for pie.
And this is not, and I get to pull the card that he can't speak while I'm speaking.
Okay.
Because I did put health, but I need to tell you why.
I just muted his mic.
Okay, thank you.
I just muted his
said
mic.
that I
You
pulled
hear?
the card.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Let me tell you why. Because this fall has actually been really hard in our area, and particularly amongst the kids. Andrew ended up with pneumonia like in August, which is so weird. But he's had multiple friends be hospitalized, and it's just been a very odd fall around here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, about that, like, man, we really skirted. Like, we were able, not that people didn't get sick, and Andrew was the worst in August, but with medication and inhaler, he was okay. But there were multiple kids that we had, that we were praying for who were hospitalized due to whatever this lung thing was, particularly in our kids, and it's still going around in our schools. So I guess for me, it was just thankful that God had mercy on our family, particularly him, because he has no immune system whatsoever.
Yeah.
So things hit him hard. But it was hard to watch this fall, just watching kids fall like that.
Yeah. Steve will be back. He's got speaking of his health.
He's not thankful for his health.
You got so emotional.
Oh, it's beautiful, Paula.
Yeah.
I'm never doing a podcast with him again.
No, that was good.
So honestly, something that you're thankful for.
Oh, yeah. Well, first thing comes to mind, my in-laws. I'm grateful that they provided their house for us to live in after we sold our house. So living with the in-laws. Yeah.
And in the midst of a house being built.
Oh, yeah.
We won't get into that.
Yeah, no. But it has definitely been a blessing, for sure.
Yeah, and during greeting time, I try to rotate where I go, and I went over to the overflow section where your in-laws are,
nice.
And Franny was, talking to someone else, so I got a chance to say hello to Carl. And first thing that popped in my head was, man, in this season, the grace that they're showing, and the willingness to. But they've always been people that have helped out. But
for
still,
sure.
That's a different kind of help out to open up your home for extended amount of time and take on,
the whole fam.
Yeah, the whole family to move in, and then every bit of storage space that they can, because you guys are waiting to go from your old house to your new, and so that's good. I think for me, and this was one that I shared down there. I think I've just been really aware in the last few months of how God has given me a support system in my life with family and friends, and as life happens and as things ebb and flow and the highs and lows and whatever's going on, I've just been really blessed that I've had a support system that has been strong and has been there for me really through my whole life. And so I just very grateful of that and thankful of that. And that was one of the first things that came to mind this year. And so this is a segue, obviously, and a perfect transition into Philippians and the end of Philippians, to have a time to be thankful for what God has blessed us with, and to really praise Him for that. And it's because of what Paul charges us to do. And so we look at Philippians 10 through 13, and he says, I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You were indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low. I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. Paul starts this passage by saying, I rejoiced. And we just spent time being thankful. And so rejoicing and finding joy and being thankful in whatever circumstance you're in, why is that such a key component of contentment in life?
Well, I think I came across a great Spurgeon quote when focusing and studying this over the last couple of weeks. And it says, rejoice in the Lord always. People who are very happy, especially those who are happy in the Lord, are not apt either to give offense or to take offense. Their minds are so sweetly occupied with higher things that they are not easily distracted by the little troubles which naturally arise among such imperfect creatures as we are. Joy in the Lord is the cure for all discord. And it really challenged me where my mind is, so we will follow. So focusing our mind on rejoicing in the Lord, what He's given us, being thankful. If I am so occupying my mind with gratitude and thanking God for where I am and the people that are around me, I have no space for complaint. I have no space for that discord and those disagreements, that are going to happen because we are so imperfect and we are broken people. I was really challenged with that, and I thought it was a good.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
Thought.
Spurgeon has a lot of great quotes.
He does.
I know.
He's a good one.
I appreciate his point of view.
Yeah.
Why else is it so important to really try to focus on having an attitude of rejoicing and thanksgiving in life when it comes to contentment?
Yeah, I think worship helps us to humble our own hearts and our own situation to focus on Him. It puts us in a place to receive the peace that passes all understanding. I think comes through humbling ourselves, and so I think oftentimes, rejoicing, even in difficulty, focusing in on what the things that the Lord has done, which is so often in worship music or things of that nature. I also think, some songs deal with. What is that? We sing this Christmas song called "Light of the World." We did that this past weekend at Keith's church there in Springboro, and that song deals with just the excitement of Jesus coming, but also the purpose of Jesus coming, which was to die on the cross and those things. So it's good to be reminded of truly like the things that Jesus has done for us. So I do think that helps in difficult moments, kind of righten our thinking, our way of thinking.
Yeah.
My thought is kind of along the lines of what Libby was talking about, in the sense that, first of all, rejoicing and choosing joy and contentment is a choice. I mean, because our nature wants us to be critical and negative and focus on where we're displeased in our life. And if we know that our mind is the battleground, right? Then I think combating those natural feelings with joy and contentment is where we win that ground back for the Lord. Because a lot of everything that we do is trying to counteract our natural tendency, you know, to fall along the lines of negativity as opposed to focusing on the good.
For sure. And not just our own human nature, but really if we look at what godly contentment is compared to what the world would say contentment and joy is, how does the world get it wrong? And why is it that this is such a countercultural thing?
We're such a consumer culture. We thrive. I mean, everything we do is based off of things, you know, and goals, these personal goals that we're to reach. And now I notice it's so saturated in like the internet and influencer. I mean, the whole concept of an influencer is to pull you to want what I have, to do what I do, to emulate me and my things. And it's just, I feel like the way that our country is geared now, it's all about obtaining more, you know, or striving and becoming more like, I don't know, you name whoever.
Yeah. And that's where the contentment comes from. How else do you think our culture gets it wrong and the world gets it wrong when it comes to contentment and joy?
Yeah, it's just that mindset of I always have to be more. I have to do more. Finding my self-worth in what I do, not who I am in Christ. And I think that's that constant, makes us constantly ungrateful, you know, for what I am and what God has given me. I spend so much time looking at what I don't have. You know, I can pull my kids' church lesson in here. It's the lesson of the donut. If I hold up a donut, what's the first thing you notice? And kids will say, the hole? The sprinkles. No, you're not supposed to say the hole. See, now that's the problem.
You just ruined her.
I'll be honest, the best donuts
and the sprinkle don't have holes. I know.
I would agree. That's what. Yes, I would agree. I would
agree. But you notice the chocolate and the sprinkles and the cake and the goodness. We should not be focusing on the whole. The one little part that is missing. We need to focus. Well, that is the negativity coming out. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, maybe.
No.
Yeah.
No,
I noticed it because why did you take that part from me?
No, but they will. No, some kids, what kids will say, you know, the whole, there's something missing. Well, we have to retrain ourselves to think about what is so good about it.
Yes.
It's what we've been given, not the little tiny part that's missing.
It's easier
then you
to
pass
hold.
around the donut
and then they can all eat the holes. Yeah.
And then you pass out.
Here, everyone.
Here's what you
Put the hole in. There you go. And I think part of our culture, and this is just commercialism and capitalism at its best, and don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be a capitalist society and all that stuff. But let's just be honest about how against biblical standards true capitalism is, in the sense of really capitalism thrives on commercialization of things. And so the real way to make money is not to get anything that lasts, or not to get the something that is going to be good over time. It's let's get the latest and greatest, and then next year the new latest and greatest, and then the next latest and greatest, and so there's just this revolving door of product after product after product after product that we and Steve's smiling like, and I know I get that way about some things too.
No, just
but
thinking, like have any of you guys hit like your parents had like a cell phone that they had for like years, and you're like, how do they even operate with that thing?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I've started to get to the age where it's like, I really like this phone.
Yeah.
I don't want a new
why
one.
would I ever want another phone?
Yeah.
I feel like,
and it's like
44,
mine
it's like,
doesn't.
oh no, it's happening.
Mine doesn't hold a charge very long anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's all these issues that are happening with
Yeah, but
Angie and
still,
my
I
phone,
love
but we're
this
like,
phone.
well, why would we? You know, it
Because
still
you
works.
only get 2
See,
years.
as you get older,
Your phone starts to decompose after 2 years.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was true, but I took my phone in and got the port fixed.
And it fixed it.
Oh my gosh. The guy's like, it just really needs cleaned. I was like, dude, I've cleaned this thing. I did the things. He's like, no. I was like, well, I'm not going to pay that money if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, I'll give you your money back. I was like, sweet.
Okay, yeah.
It works. I'm
worked,
like,
yeah.
My Heather's like, it's like you got a whole new phone. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just going to say,
Bear that on now.
young people just know that as you get older, contentment just kind of wears on you. You're like, why would
eventually it comes. Yeah.
Eventually.
So
in cell phones, but nothing else.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things I'm searching for on Black Friday. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because obviously if we're trying to personally live a life of godly contentment and we're struggling through what that looks like and not being driven by the latest, greatest, and not being driven by consumerism and trying to get that next thing, man, how do we teach our kids that as well? Like when they live in this world and so many of their friends are just given everything, you know, how have you found with that battle? How have you found to find some success in trying to foster true godly contentment in your kids? Because the answer is not to not let them have any friends, or the answer is not to not let them have anything ever of worldly substance. You know, like that's not the answer. But what have you found that would help in fostering an attitude of rejoicing and joy and gratefulness and true godly contentment in what God has blessed them with?
Well, it definitely looks very countercultural.
Yeah.
In choosing a life of less. I will say this without any type of sarcasm, but I am thankful we live in a tiny house. We live in an 1,100 square foot house with 5 kids.
Yeah.
Picture it, folks.
Yeah.
With 5 kids. We don't have a ton of space. And honestly, it has helped us, Steve and I, keep things simple. Because we don't have room for a ton of stuff. Everybody doesn't have their own bedroom.
Yeah.
It's not filled with things. We don't have space for big things.
Yeah.
And it has created, I think, obviously my kids are still asking for all kinds of stuff for Christmas, but it has created in them, like, we have lots of conversations about wants versus needs.
Yeah.
And practicality. And like for Christmas, for us, something really practical that we've done since the kids were little is 3 gifts.
Yeah.
It was enough for Jesus. It's enough for us. We
Well,
do.
yeah.
We really do. I know. It helps us, but it helps us when it's a conversation when they're little.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
It's about Jesus and 3 gifts, and it's one need, one want, and one thing to grow. So either something to grow spiritually or a book or something educational. And that was enough. It doesn't stop the joy of Christmas. I mean, it's been enough.
So basically,
for
they're getting
years.
2 gifts then, because like the educational one. Are you kidding me?
And my kids beg for books. Every single. See, this is the mentality. My kids beg for books. That's all of their list.
What?
I know. Or it was a new Bible or a new, something that they need. But it's been, and then they get a stocking, and then they give gifts to each other, and then they go to their grandparents, and it's all kinds of stuff.
You have to validate that.
It's been so kick him. No, but it's just been some practical things for us.
For sure.
And it's just a
you're right about going to the
conversation.
grandparents. Doesn't matter. You guys only give them 3 gifts or 2 gifts, really.
I know.
They're gonna get a 2 gifts.
Like, shut up, Steve.
No, that
We
doesn't
value
make sense.
our
Knowing your
education.
kids, that's not a surprise that they would want some books.
Yeah,
for
they
sure.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. That's always actually an easy gift.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. So but it's definitely different. Yeah, and we talk about, are these things honoring to God? Having more and more stuff.
Yeah. At what point is too much?
Yeah.
What about with you guys? How have you tried to find ways to foster attitudes of contentment?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I can't say as I've been as intentional as Libby for sure. Especially with the Christmas and what we get, and we definitely have tried to take every opportunity, whether it's through the Operation Christmas Child, Last year it was taking a family for the Albion food pantry. The Albion food pantry, and going as a family and picking things out. And I found the kids really enjoyed that, and explaining to them, kind of what it's like for families who, their kiddos aren't really expecting much or anything. So that's been really good. I think, and plus I think them experiencing my parents' gifts on Christmas, and then them being like, Dad, I really feel bad how you grew up. And I was like, I know, kids, it was rough.
I knew, right when he said that, I knew he was going.
I'm just kidding. I did get an awesome G.I. Joe Fortress one year. It's the coolest thing ever. Just saying. But no, I'm just playing. No, I think things like that are really important. Getting out and really thinking about, how they can bless someone else. I think is a big one. So
Absolutely.
We're at an interesting stage, in the beast that is middle school. It's just such a different
middle
dynamic.
school.
They asked for the skibbity toilet from Walmart.
No.
They're selling them.
But if I
Have
hear
you seen
that
them?
anymore, I'm going to lose it.
Jeez.
So there's a lot of, we just started basketball season. So like, what basketball shoes are you going to buy? There is an element of that. And in fact, my sons tend to veer on the side of like, I don't want what everybody has. Like they're more like, I want to do something different. They don't necessarily like being copycats. They like kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they still don't have this, need to show up. But I feel like for us, we've had a lot of really interesting conversations as they've gotten older, in the sense that perspective has really come into play more so than things. I think they're really in a stage of life where they're starting to notice everyone's life, family, dynamics are not exactly like mine.
Yeah.
And so we've had a lot of conversations on different kids in their classes and stuff who might not have a dad in their home. Or I remember once Ian talking about, there's this one kid, and every single day he wears the same outfit to school, and he has for 2 weeks. What's that about? And it just has opened up so many conversations, realizing, no, everyone, and not that we live any sort of way, but kids can tend to believe that everybody's just like them. They all have the same family
it's the only
dynamic.
reality they know.
That's right.
Everyone must be the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you open your eyes a little bit to realize, well, that's really not the case. It's made them really open up about that. And some of it's really hard for them.
Yeah.
They've had a kid say to them, like, I wish my dad would coach. Your dad's at everything. It'd be nice if my dad could coach, type of thing. And here they think sometimes that's a pill.
I wish my dad was like not here.
I wish he wasn't here all the time. But that another kid would look at that and go, "You're so lucky that your dad is at everything.
You're so fortunate." Yeah, and that's
it's just perspective. It's just a minute to step back and go, "Oh man, okay."
And those things are crucial, and to not just like have them happen, but like you said, to talk through that stuff and discuss it to help. In that manner. I think for us, one of the things that we try to do is, one, I don't use this too much with the kids, but I do let them know pretty often with things. They have a lot of stuff, but when it comes to electronics, when I was getting my master's in education, there was a teacher that he's like, I used to tell my kids all the time when they'd come home and complain about this family has this gaming system and this family has this. He goes, yeah, you're underprivileged. He goes, I told them all the time. And he goes, and they thank me all the time as adults for what they didn't have. And he goes, with us, it wasn't a money thing. It was a choice thing, and so I think there's a little bit of like, how do we strike that balance in that area? And then the other thing was, like today, for instance, school is important. I used to be a teacher before I became a pastor. I believe in education, but my kids missed school this morning so they could go with me and hand out frozen turkeys and Thanksgiving boxes at the city mission. And, we didn't actually do that part, like the three of us, because it was pretty cold this morning. and the line went around the block, there was a bunch of people making breakfast sandwiches and pouring coffee and hot chocolate, and we were going out with these big trays and just handing hot chocolate and coffee and trying to have conversations. And then we ran into a teenager from Grace Gerard who's been homeless the last couple of years. I haven't seen him in like 5 years probably. And just to have that conversation with him and to have the kids be part of that and to realize and to see like, oh yeah, there is this right down the road from us. You know, like it's not, you know, we've had the extreme privilege of taking them to the Dominican for a mission trip, but in your mind, it's like, oh yeah, there's people in the world that live in poverty and have dirt floors. Like we parked next to a van that had a couple windows blown out, a tire was off, and it was obviously that person's house. You know, there was coolers outside and like Tupperware containers outside because they couldn't store it into, you know, and just having that conversation of like, yeah, this person's right down the road from where we live and they have nowhere to live, you know, like all of these people, I think it was over 1,000 boxes that were given out with awesome. Frozen turkey, you know, like there's all these people in line because there's some sort of way in their life and this could really, really help them, you know? And I don't know. I hope it helps. Because right now the hard thing is you can kind of tell if it's helping your kids, but they're just kids. So like they become like just their human nature of wanting more, and it kicks right back to that. And you're like,
you
man,
think, oh, we just had such a victory, and then they're like, they fail
on the way home.
Did this lesson really take? Like
forget you.
And it's like, did they really hear this? Did they internalize anything? But I mean, I think it's over time, and you realize that as you get older,
and I think as they grow, they will draw upon those experiences and memories.
So one of the other things, as we look at Philippians, is the whole point of this section of verses is what it ends with, and it's the verse of "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength." And we talked about this a little bit on Sunday during the sermon about how like this is one of the most known verses in Scripture, also possibly one of the most misquoted or misinterpreted of what Paul actually means here and what he's talking about. And so what is it that Paul's saying here actually, and how do we so often get the meaning of this verse wrong?
Well, I think getting it right, I try to encourage youth to use it when they haven't studied for a test.
Absolutely. That is an
say
exact
it over and over again
interpretation.
And see how it works out.
See how that works out. Watch it fail.
I mean, that's what it means, right?
Exactly.
I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
For sure.
Yeah. And as we talked about Sunday, that's the problem with having a one verse theology. You know?
Yeah.
Because you know, we see the verses before. He's literally talking about how the all things is being content in any situation, whether it's in need or abundance. And no matter what circumstance is happening in life, he can be content.
Yeah.
And those are the all things that he can do. And I think so often we look at it in that type of meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And
it's also a big sports.
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
seen it on so many
everybody.
T-shirts, necklaces, you know, in relation to athletics.
Christian school lift-a-thons.
Lift-a-thons?
Yeah. So a good fundraiser, like a lot of schools do.
A shoot-a-thon that's going on. I can do all things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's all the shots. Yeah.
So
like
there's aren't your kids doing this?
Yeah. I didn't. I thought I was thinking.
Oh my gosh, Paula's so violent. Shoot. It's
Like
basketball
turkey
season.
shoot.
I saw your kids there. Chris was there.
It's Albion. That's not too far-fetched of a thought.
Yeah.
Like,
I was thinking about
when you hear
weapons.
shooting.
That shoot-a-thon. That shoot-a-thon does sound fun.
Yeah. But like that's you see it all the time, or like the Lord's Gym shirts. Remember those?
Yes.
And like the verse under the Lord's Gym usually was, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength."
Yeah.
You know, so like there was
wrong.
Yeah, like that's not what he's saying here. And obviously that is something that is misinterpreted a lot of times. But really, if we think about it, the only way that we truly have godly contentment is through God's strength, because it is so difficult and it is so countercultural and so against human nature. But yeah, a lot of times that verse gets taken out of context and thrown around.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a little commercialized.
Yes.
I told the kids on Sunday, like, we connected it to John 15:5.
Yeah.
So it says, "For without me, you can
Yes.
do nothing."
Right.
Yes.
So, reminding ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a little backwards.
And that was in the sermon. One of the things that I tried to connect it to was making sure that, like, hey, like, this is also something, that Jesus himself said when he was here.
Absolutely.
And so as we think about that, and as we think about, God's work in our life, and maybe I feel like when we look at a world scale, maybe you haven't been like filthy rich, that you never had to, worry about what you spent, but you've probably had a season of plenty in your life, especially compared to so many others. And so have you found it more difficult to find true contentment in a season of plenty or a season of need? And this is different with everyone.
Yeah. I don't know if not being content, but definitely being in a season of need brings on a level of stress that's fairly undeniable when, there was a couple years where, like, at Christmas time, we're like, I'm not quite sure how we're going to even do that, which you might think, hey, that's not even, who needs, but when your kids are little and, we were a one income family for a long time because that was the choice we made so that I could stay home and raise my kids. And, there were a couple Christmases where I was like, yeah, there is nothing there in order to give these two little toddlers a Christmas. So I do think that times where you're a little bit more stretched can bring a level of stress, but I never felt that my contentment was rocked. I didn't necessarily feel discontent. I just felt a heightened level of awareness that we were in a season of struggle. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think the great point there is you can have that heightened sense of awareness. You can have the stress.
But it never took away my joy.
We're called to give that to Christ.
Yeah.
But you can still be content.
Yeah.
And that's a choice, and through the power of Christ.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I think in our seasons of great need, I was acutely aware of the choice of, am I going to trust God and be content with what he has given or what he has not? And am I not? So I think in a season of need, I probably was choosing the most of being content and being okay with, recognizing that God has allowed or not allowed things in our lives. And I think in a season of wealth, it's easy to push God to the back burner. You don't think about it, I'm like, and in that season, you can get real caught up in that rat race real fast. So I'm like, we're doing good. We're all right financially. All right. What do we want? What are we going to do? What are we going to do to the house? Are we going to add on? Are we going to, so you can get into, my dad calls, HGTV, covet TV, because you get in that season of more and more and more. And what can I do? Not looking outside of ourselves. Well, wait a second. No, God has blessed us. How can we bless somebody else? It's no. Hey, we finally have money. What are we going to do with it?
Exactly.
So,
and the dependence on God can take a hit. It doesn't have to, but it can take a hit when it's in a season of plenty, because all of a sudden it's like, well, now I'm almost a little more self-sufficient. And I can do this, and I'm okay. I don't need to rely on God, and if you're not aware and careful, it can really turn quickly. Rich Ring, God bless him, came running up after the sermon and was like, I found that, and just went into this like whole thing of like, man, it's in the plenty that's hard, like that's where the difficult is, and for him just talking about when we have nothing, everything was great, like you got up, you worked, you milked the cows, and you kept moving, simply like we got to survive and we got to depend on God, and it's only God, and there's something to be said for that, and to try to have that same dependence on God in that season. And I think one of the ways, and we're going to end on this, just real quickly, we talked about being grateful and the importance of being grateful and how that helps lead to contentment, whether in plenty or in need. But also one of the things that I've been keenly aware of, and Scripture points back to a lot, is to be generous, to live a generous life, whether you're in need or in plenty. There's examples through Scripture of those who have nothing, like, the widow in Mark 12, who basically had less than nothing. Jesus refers to it as she gave everything she had, which equated to a penny, and so like, but she was still generous in her giving. And so I guess, where have you found in your life that generosity has been crucial? And what does that look like for you? How do you try to live a life of generosity? And I guess I'll give an example of, and again, not to pat my parents on the back, but growing up at the ranch, growing up, my parents working full time in ministry. My mom didn't get an income for working out there full time for quite some time. We did not have much, but we always had enough that we had an open door. Like we always were getting some kid off the street that had even less, and like they could have a plate, like there was enough food to share, there was enough powdered milk to go around, and that wasn't that we weren't on powdered milk that long, but still, like there was just, and so it didn't matter. Even though things were super tight in a lot of ways, there was just an attitude of generosity. And so Angie and I have tried to be, keenly aware of little things like that, of how is it that we're, that we're doing that. Like, we've tried to grow every year in our missions giving and have that be on top of our amount of tithe that goes to the church. And at the same time, tried to increase our percentage of tithe. And it's incremental every year, but it's one more step of like, how do we depend on God more and more? And how do we utilize what he's blessed us with, for others? Because we've not missed a meal over doing this. We're not even living close to poverty in doing this, and so it's, I guess that trying to take those steps of generosity and even learning how to grow in that. And at the same time, Angie's the one that helps keep me in check, because I would, not that she's not giving or generous, but I would probably give away too much. And then it's like, oh yeah, we're not paying the bills this month, yeah. So she has my Winds of the Spirit account in our budget. And so I have a limit at times, but when things happen and hurricanes hit, and and with some of the missionaries, you want to be able to help. So she's like, yeah. But how have you guys tried to find ways to be generous in order to help with your contentment?
I think because Steve and I went through several seasons of being in need ourselves, we're acutely aware of when we see young families in need. And so,
or not so young families in need,
or not so young families.
Yeah, you guys are very much aware of just families in need. Yeah,
but just families in needs, and trying to meet those needs quietly.
Yeah,
because it doesn't help families in need to make a fanfare.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's kept us. It keeps us grounded because it reminds us of where we've been and that we could quickly go back there.
I was just saying,
but Steve had several surgeries right in a row, and we had a really hard time.
Yeah.
You know, just making ends meet for several years. And we were incredibly blessed by individual people, by the church.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I think, you know, God allows us to go through hard seasons and through things so that we can turn around and we will see it in other people. Yeah. And so it's something that has kept us grounded, and it, you know, it brings us together, you know, in our marriage when we can serve together or we can meet a need for somebody else and see that and help.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I want to remind people that are listening, it's not just a generosity in financial standing. It's not just a generosity in money. Yes, that's what Paul's talking about here, and being content in the church in Philippi, giving out of need to you know, further the gospel. But there's so much more to be generous with when it comes to time and ability and giftings and effort. You know, there's that is a way that you can bless someone just as much. Like I'm thinking of certain people in our church that, you know, when a family was having one of them go through cancer and battle cancer, but they needed some things done around the house. There's someone in the church that's like, oh yeah, I'm really handy. You know, I can give my time. I can do this. And he went over and he did multiple projects for them, you know, and that was so vital, especially since, you know, the one spouse never did recover and passed from it. And so those things were done in preparation of that. And, you know, it's just like there's ways to be generous, and it doesn't just have to be financial. And God has given us our gifts so that we can, you know, bless others to grow his kingdom and to point people to Jesus. Well, thank you guys very much for the discussion. I pray a speedy recovery to some of the health complications. I shouldn't make light of that, because there's people that are listening that are in like serious health complications.
Amen.
I appreciate it.
So
Cold.
Oh man, but I do pray that those that are listening or watching, that you have a great Thanksgiving, that it will be a time of praising God and thanking God for what he's blessed you with. And no matter the circumstances, we can choose contentment with the power of Christ in us. And also, our greatest need, if we have chosen to follow Christ, our greatest need will always be a Savior. And he has provided that, and you know, through the gift of salvation through his Son. And so that is something, no matter our circumstance, if we are a follower of Christ, we can always praise him for that. So thank you for listening to the Federated Squared Circle, Wrestling with God's Word. We'll see you next week.